White bean and green stew is my kind of weeknight meal. I'll tell you why. It's a one-pot vegetarian wonder, chock full of rich greens, protein-packed beans, super simple to make. Let's get started. I have my pan heating on medium-high heat, and I'm adding about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So what we're gonna do with our bread here is give it a nice little toast in the oil. This is gonna make it nice and crunchy on the outside, but keep it nice and sort of soft still on the inside. Add my 4 pieces. Let's add some sage. This is about 3 sprigs of sage. And what this is gonna do is just sort of flavor the oil and make our bread super, super tasty. This will only take about 5 minutes or so, and you wanna flip it halfway through. So this stew is kind of a take on a Tuscan ribollita, which is one of my favorite stews of all time. And that is just a simple blend of greens, hearty greens like kale, vegetables, white beans, and then it's thickened by bread. So this is sort of the vibe we're going for. We're not going to mash the bread with our stew. This is just going to go to the bottom of our serving bowl, but you're going to get the same experience. Actually, I think that you might be ready to go. Oh, beautiful. That's exactly what you're looking for, that really nice, light golden sear. Just flip it around like this. I think sage and white beans is such a wonderful combination. I'm gonna turn my heat down here, because I don't want the pan to get too hot. So transfer the seared bread over to a dish. And then while the bread is still warm, rub the top side with a clove of garlic. This is really gonna infuse the bread with a nice, pungent garlic flavor. All right, add that to my sage bowl. And then I always like to season my bread with some kosher salt. Also, this is just for flavor enhancement. So we'll set that to the side. So let's work on the aromatics here for this stew. Really, really simple combination. Just 3 carrots, thinly sliced, shooting for about a 1/4 inch here, and 2 cloves of garlic. So we'll have the cooked garlic flavor for the body of the stew, but then you'll get a nice hit of raw garlic on the bread. It's so great. So this soup is really, really great for the cold weather months. If you feel like you have a cold coming on, the garlic is such an immune booster. Gotta love that. And then we're also gonna add some more chopped sage, because you bought the bunch of sage, you wanna use the sage, right? I lived in Florence for a time in college, and I would have ribollita every day after school. Never got sick of it the entire time I was there, and that was for 1 year. So I am committed to this flavor combination. All right, we'll give it another sideways chop here. So back on the heat we go, this time to medium. So we're gonna add about a tablespoon of olive oil. Give that a nice swirl. If your pan got a little dark from the toasted bread segment, just sort of wipe it clean with a paper towel. We'll add the garlic here. So I think the key to cooking garlic and not burning it is to start it along with the oil over a moderate heat like medium. That way it doesn't get away from you too quickly. So we'll let the garlic get a head start here, just a few seconds, before adding our carrots and the sage. Okay, give it a good season of salt. This not only helps season your vegetables, it also helps them break down for the sauté. So give this a stir. We're gonna let this cook until the carrots are pretty tender, about 5 minutes or so. All right, this already smells so good. I'm just gonna add a couple of cracks of black pepper. Okay, my carrots have been cooking. They are nice and crisp tender. To that, add half a cup of white wine. I like to use a dry white wine like a Sauvignon Blanc. Pinot Grigio would be great. This is gonna add a nice acidity to the soup. But because we want it to be mellow and round, let this reduce all the way, so until it's all the way evaporated. It's been a couple minutes and my wine is all the way reduced. See, not a trace. Just have a really, really flavorful vegetable medley here. So to this, add 2 15-ounce cans of drained and rinsed cannellini beans. And I have 4 cups of vegetable stock. Ooh, that looks good. All right, so let's bring this up to a boil. Also gonna add a pinch of red pepper flakes. It's gonna add a nice amount of bite. Oh, this smells so delicious. I love the white beans in this stew here because it's a really great source of plant-based protein. It's also one of those low glycemic carbohydrates, so you feel fuller longer. It sort of helps with sweet cravings, keeps your blood sugar nice and steady. All right, looks like we are up to a boil. So just reduce this down to low. What we're looking for is a nice steady simmer until the vegetables are perfectly tender and the flavors have melded. That's gonna be about 25 minutes. Everything is smelling so wonderful. You can see the soup has kind of reduced a little bit. It's thickened. Let's just check these carrots. Ah, perfectly tender. Exactly what we want. So before we add the greens, remove about a cup of the white beans. It's okay if you get a little bit of the broth. And what we're doing is just mashing these. And this is a really great trick to add a little bit more body to your vegetable soups without making it into, a full-on puree. All right, so let's return these. All right, it wouldn't be a white bean and green stew without the greens, so let's get those guys in. I have about 4 cups of a mixture of baby greens. There's really interesting baby green combinations out there right now in your grocery store. One of the ones I'm really fond of is the Super Greens mix, and that has usually a little bit of a Swiss chard, some baby kale, baby spinach. Sometimes you see a little bok choy in there. Really anything that's nice and tender. So you want to make sure your heat is not super, super hot because we're looking just to wilt these guys and keep as much of the nutrients and the minerals intact. Add a little bit more salt. Keep stirring it. Got to be a little patient here. We are looking great here. Go ahead and turn the heat off. Give it a taste for seasoning. Everything's nice and seasoned, so let's plate up. So we'll grab one of our pieces of bread here. That smells good. Okay, so let's add a couple of spoonfuls of greens. Oh man, this looks like a treat. So good. We're not finished yet. Gonna add a little bit of cheese. I have just a little Parmesan. You could also add Pecorino Romano if you wanted a little bit more bite. I like the Parmesan myself. Looks delicious. Now the one thing I will say is if you feel like you want a little bit more broth, or you want the consistency of the soup a little looser, just add a little bit of water here. Let's give it another drizzle of olive oil. This looks delicious. And dig in. Sounds promising, right? Nice and crisp and crunchy. Let's get all the components here. So delicious, hearty, satisfying. This is gonna be your new comfort classic.